love the Lord, for he heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy. Because he turned his ear to me, I will call on him as long as I live.
The Lord is gracious and righteous. Our God is full of compassion.
The Lord protects the unwary. When I was brought low, he saved me.
Praise awaits you, our God. To you, our vows will be fulfilled. You who answer prayer, to you all people will come.
When we were overwhelmed by sins, you forgave our transgressions. Blessed are those you choose and bring near.
You, Lord, hear the desire of the afflicted. You encourage them, and you listen to their cry, defending the fatherless and the oppressed.
Blessed are those you choose to bring near. The Lord is king forever and ever.
Teach me your ways, O Lord, and lead me in a level path.
Yes, I will wait for the Lord.
Well, good morning. I am so pleased that you are here today as we continue this short series, short 5-part series called The Poetry of Trust. And those of you who are worshiping at our other campuses and those of you who follow us online, I'm just so grateful that we get to have this important, critical, powerful conversation today. But let me begin with the question. Do not answer out loud. How old are you? Just think of the number in your mind. How old are you? I was in a group recently, and I mentioned that I was middle-aged, to which a certain child of mine said, yeah, dude, like you're in the middle if you live to be like 112. It would not be fair for me to say which child said this, so for the sake of this sermon, let's just call him Alex. And, a moment like that is fraught with challenges. First, there's the challenge of offering a gracious response. And there's the challenge of rewriting the will. Again, But he's right. If the hourglass of my life is flipped over, the sand that is drained through and is in the bottom, the amount there is larger than the amount that is at the top that has yet to flow through. He's right. There's probably more of me in the past than there is in the future. And the craziness is that all the cliches are true about, the time flies type thing. It's just true. Maybe you've experienced this. You're walking across the platform to receive your high school diploma, and what is just a short time later, you open your inbox and there is an invitation to your 10th high school reunion, and you go, that's not possible. But there you are. And you go, what happened to the years between 18 and 28? Holding his little child, his tiny fingers, tiny toes, tiny features, and you turn around once or twice and they're going to kindergarten. You look the other way and look back, and suddenly you're sitting in an auditorium where they're crossing the platform to receive their high school diploma. You're standing in the aisle of the church as some preacher asks, who gives this woman to this man? And you go, woman? I'm not giving you to that undeserving guy. And you summon the words to say, her mother and I. And it just happens with dizzying speed, and it just seems to move faster as we move forward. You open your mailbox one day, and there is a letter, and it has your name on it, but this is obviously a mistake because it's from an organization called the AARP. The American Association of Retired Persons, and you go, well, this is obviously a mistake. I'm only 50, and that's when they begin to send you stuff. The song that we get to dive into today, the poem that we get to absorb, is not written by a person at the beginning of their life. It's not written by a person in their 20s or their 30s or their 40s. I believe the poem that we are going to read today from the scriptures is penned by an individual on the brink of old age. And a lot of life has come. And a lot of life has gone. And the songwriter prays this prayer, Psalm 71, verse 9. Do not cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. This is a prayer, and it's a person that is not in their younger years, but advancing into their older years, and they simply pray, God, don't throw me away because I'm old. Don't cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. This song, this psalm, Psalm 71, is written by an old guy. It's written by an old guy in trouble. And it's written by an old guy in trouble clinging to God, which is massive, which is huge. A crash course on the Psalms, if you brand new to how the Bible's put together. In your Bible, there's a book of Psalms. It is a collection of 150 songs. These Psalms, each chapter, these are song lyrics, and originally they would have been set to music. Read the Psalms, you're reading songs, you're reading poems that are Godward poems. The Psalms are about how to approach God when you're confused and tired and beat up. The Psalms are about how to approach God when you feel your heart is so full it's going to burst. The Psalms say, God, I trust you. God, I thank you. Or God, I need you. They're kind of all over the map in the spiritual expressions they set forth in our spiritual journey in life. This psalm, Psalm 71, is written by an old guy. It's written by an old guy in trouble, and it's written by an old guy in trouble clinging to God. What is so powerful to me, what strikes me most about Psalm 71 is that it is written by an individual who has seen repeated hurt and repeated harm, and yet the overarching tone of the psalm is hope and confidence. Hope, confidence, and trust. And that, my friends, will not come naturally. If you experience repeated hurt, the most natural thing in the world is for you to become numb, jaded, and cynical. Cynical about life, cynical about people, cynical about organizations, and cynical about God. And so as we absorb Psalm 71, as we kind of walk through it together, my friends, we are going to be attending a clinic on how to get hurt without becoming a cynical, bitter old person. You need this if you're 63. You need this if you're 13. Because the way we end up responding when we are older has much to do with the patterns that we set when we are younger. An old guy in trouble, clinging to God. Our story today, or the way we're gonna break down this song or this psalm and explore it together and absorb it together, is in three parts. Part number one, we just wanna talk about trouble. Not just trouble, but trouble what? Once again. Trouble, not just trouble, but trouble. Once again. I'd like you to say some words with me out loud. They're uncomfortable, but I would just play along, please. Just want you to say the words. I'm gonna get hurt. Ready? I'm gonna get hurt. I'm gonna get hurt. Unless I'm absolutely numbed out and dead inside. If I'm actually engaged with people and engaged with life, I'm going to experience something deeply disappointing, vastly disappointing. I'm gonna get hurt. Now, that's not the problem. Because when you get hurt, you heal and you recover, but then you get hurt again. Well, and then you recover and you heal up and you survive that, and then you get hurt again. And there's just this point where you go, this is wearying and this is becoming jaded, numb, and cynical. Is the easiest thing in the world when you've experienced not just trouble, but trouble once again. So check in on the psalm, Psalm 71, verse 3. the author writes this. He says, be my rock of refuge to which I can always go. Give the command to what? Last two words, the third line. To what? Save me. This person is in desperate need of rescue. For you are my rock and my fortress. This is a person crying out to God for help. They are in trouble. But because they're in their later years, they are in trouble once again. They just say, be my rock of refuge to which I can always go. Give the command to save me. God, I need you to rescue me. I need you to lift me out of this pit that I'm in, for you are my rock and my fortress. And if you just stopped at verse 3, you go, dude, what's up? We're talking, is this a health issue? Is this a financial collapse? Is this a drought, a couple years without rain, and the crops are like non-existent? And my friends, this wasn't a health issue, and this wasn't a financial collapse, and it wasn't a drought through lack of rain. What the author is experiencing here, what they're experiencing is a people problem. Mean people are doing mean things. Mean people are doing mean things. He doesn't call them mean. He calls them wicked, evil, and cruel. Evil, wicked, and cruel. Check out verse 4. Deliver me, my God, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasp of those who are evil and cruel. Nasty people are doing nasty things. And he says, God, just deliver me from their grasp. Deliver me, God, from the hand of the wicked. Deliver me from the grasp of the evil and cruel. How bad was it? It was so bad that there were some people who wanted him dead. If you scroll on down to verse 10, this is what you'd find. It says, for my enemies speak against me, those who want to. There are some people that want to take me out of this life, and they're conspiring, they're ganging up. Those who want to kill me conspire against me. You say, yeah, it's probably an exaggeration. There's a reason to believe that this particular song is penned by King David of Jerusalem in his senior years. And while Psalm 71 does not give the exact event from which David is suffering or struggling or heartbroken or disillusioned, we do know that in the senior years of David's life, as he is in the palace, there's a younger guy out by the main gate of Jerusalem greeting people as they come in. This dude is handsome, he's a good-looking guy, he's articulate, and he is a charmer. And he has a phenomenal work ethic. Day after day after day, he is up early when those gates open, and he's greeting people as they stream into the city. Hey, come here. Where are you from? Hey, what's your name? What have you come to this? Oh, you've gone to the palace to get some justice, to have the king settle a dispute. Well, I think you're probably going to be disappointed, but someday, if I were king, this is what I would do. The man is a thief. And the scripture tells us that over time, he stole the hearts of the people. What makes matters worse for King David in his palace is that the younger man by the gate, who is articulate, charming, and attractive, is his kid, Absalom, his son. What makes the Absalom coup so paralyzingly challenging is that David's own son wants to kill him. In verse 10, where it says, my enemies conspire to kill me, that was literally happening at least one point in David's life. In verse 9, this is why he prays, do not cast me away when I am old, do not forsake me when my strength is gone. I don't have the energy to deal with this. I don't have the strength to deal with this. Now, I might be going out on a limb here, but I'm guessing some of you would say that at age 55, you do not have quite the energy you had at age 35. It might be a stretch here, but I'm guessing some of you who are 75 might claim that you do not have quite the energy you had when you were 55. What if one of the greatest challenges in life enters your life when, quite frankly, you don't feel like you have the strength or energy to deal with it? The challenge is larger and the energy is smaller. The challenge is massive and you just don't have the strength you did when you were 33. When King David prays, do not abandon me when I'm old, do not abandon me when my strength is gone. We're talking a massive problem with diminished strength as he approaches or is in his senior years. Let me just take a moment just to speak to those of you who are, let's just say, over 50-ish. Those of us who are over 50-ish, we are naive to believe that our greatest life challenges are behind us. It could be, just speaking from probability, it could be. Some of your greatest life's challenges are in front of you at a time when you feel like you have reduced strength and when you feel like you've paid your hardship dues already. You just thought you would coast through your middle years. And now there's this, the company that you were banking on to sustain you in your senior years, it is not doing so well. And you go, man, I am gonna have to work well into my 70s. Now listen, you wanted to work into your 70s, but you desired to work into your 70s because you wanted to, not because you had to. My friends, there's a difference. Some of our greatest challenges may be ahead of us. Sailing through life, great health, and then you're hit by some physical ailment. You find yourself asking one day, why in the world did we buy a house with stairs? Or your health is great, but the health of your spouse is not. And you had this picture of what you were going to do together and where you were going to travel together and how active you would be together. And right now, because of the diminished health of a husband or wife, you're looking into the future and you just kind of take an eraser to it. You're trying to figure out what's out there for you. And it may be that you are in perfect health, but you have to pour incredible amount of time and energy and care into a child or into a parent who is struggling mentally or emotionally. And you go, I just don't think I have the strength for this right now. Major challenge, diminished strength. But the overarching tone of the song, here's the crazy thing. The overarching tone of the song is hopeful, confident, trusting. How do you pull that off when you're advancing on your senior years and something hits you and it hits you hard? How do you keep the heart from just becoming jaded, numb, and cynical about life, cynical about God, cynical about organizations? About 10 years back, I was at this place. It's called Masada. Any of you, can I see the hands of those of you that have been to Masada? All right. It's right by the Dead Sea, right, in Israel. And we left Jerusalem literally in the middle of the night, drove there in our rental car so that when they opened the gates, I don't know, 5 a.m. or something like that, we were able to hike this winding trail that went to the top so that we could look across the Dead Sea and see the sunrise over Jordan. This, my friends, is in fact, the word Masada, it means like fortress or stronghold. Herod the Great built one of his forts and palaces here in the first century. In the Jewish revolt of 70 AD, when the Jews revolted against the Roman authority and the Roman Empire, this was the Alamo. This was their last stand. They took Masada and they held it, and it took the Romans like 3 years to dislodge them. This road up here, or this embankment, that is not a natural feature. That's the siege ramp that the Romans built in order to get their siege machines up at the top of Masada. Listening, when someone's attacking you, that's the kind of place you want. If you're under attack, you want something high, you want a rock, you want a fortress, you want a place of safety. And that's exactly what David needs with this trauma that he's experiencing. But I want you to note his words carefully where he says, "Be God, be my rock of refuge, for you are my rock and my fortress." He doesn't just say, "God, give me a rock and a fortress." He says, "You are. You are the place I go to shelter. You are the one that gives safety and security. I need to hide in you." How do you pull that off? Not simply experiencing hurt, vast disappointment, but experiencing it again and again and again. How in the world do you do that? Turn to God in your darkest hour. What I would like to suggest from this song is that David turns to God in his senior years because he is in the habit of turning to God. David is turning to God later in life because he had instilled a habit of turning to God earlier in life. Part 2, the habit of trust. The habit of trust. I want you to see something in verse 5. Verse 5, David says this. He says, "For you have been my hope, sovereign Lord, my confidence since my youth." Now, if you are under 40-ish, I'd love for you to read this one out loud with me. Please play along. Ready? "For you have been my hope, sovereign Lord, my confidence since my youth." Now, if you're familiar in a bit with the story of David, you know that the very first time the Bible opens to David, he is not king of Jerusalem. In fact, when the Bible opens to the beginning of the story of David, he is the youngest of 7 brothers. And some of you know that he had a household chore, a household responsibility, a household task as the youngest son. And that was David is serving his family as just say it if you think you know it. Ready? A shepherd. A shepherd. It's dark. There are predators. You're scared. What David in his senior years is reflecting on here, that even as a kid in the field, he had to turn to God again and again and again in seasons of danger that were threatening. Now, back in the late 1800s, there's a woman, I believe she was from New Hampshire, incredible artist. Her name was Elizabeth Jane Gardner, right? And Elizabeth Jane Gardner, one of her most famous paintings is this one right here. It's called David the Shepherd, or the Shepherd David. And what she's attempting to depict here is that, obviously there is a lion here. He's holding a lamb, and what she's attempting to depict is that a lion attacks the foal. David goes after the lion, kills the lion, rescues the lamb. But also what she attempts to depict here is that David's uplifted hand and uplifted gaze. It's like as a kid, he's going, God, I trust you, I need you, and I trust you, I trust you, and I need you. That's what David is saying in verse 5. I you have been my hope, my confidence from my youth. Now compare that verse 5 to verse 9. For you have been my hope, sovereign Lord, my confidence since my youth. Do not cast me away when I am old. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. What I'm attempting to suggest is this: you're more likely to trust God here if you trusted him here. Some of you thought for a while that this was going to be a message for 60-year-olds and older. If there is a hearing that I am most anxious about receiving today, it's those of you who are between like 13 and 33. You don't spend your life and wake up as a 60-year-old one day and say, now, today, I'll throw this switch, and it's the woman of God switch. Now I've got this problem. Today I will be a woman of God. My friends, this is something you cultivate over time. There's no trust switch where suddenly you're this person of glorious, resounding trust. This is a muscle that is worked and exercised over a lifetime. You don't wake up one day and just because you're 55, 60, 65, 72, just boom, it's there. David is able to trust God when he is older because he was trusting God when he was younger. The pain you experience when you're 48, 56, 62, 74. You are preparing for that pain when you are 13, 18, 24, and 28. When you are a 13-year-old middle school girl and a group of friends gang up on you and say something mean and nasty, turning to God in this moment. This hurts so much and I feel so all alone. Turning to God in that moment prepares your heart for how to respond when you're 44, and it's not the rejection of a friend, it's the rejection of a child. It's a child that rejects you. Turning to God early begins to work the muscles and equip you for turning to God later. 18 years old, surgery, knee surgery is the next morning. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I make it through all of high school injury-free, and I tear my ACL playing wiffle ball in the backyard. Wiffle ball in the backyard, and the next day is surgery. And just honestly, you say, I'm scared. I'm nervous about this surgery. I'm scared about this surgery. I'm going to wake up in pain. And then there's going to be the recovery. Then there's going to be the therapy that follows. God, I give you tomorrow. I give you tomorrow. Do that when you're 18. It's preparing you for your response when you're 68 and you have a hip replacement. And you're going like, I am not looking forward to waking up tomorrow after this and having the pain and having the therapy. You see, it's how we respond to God when we're younger that begins to prepare us for when we're older. This is the benefit of early trust. David, how can you do that? God, when I'm old, do not forsake me. Do not forsake me when my strength is gone. How do you do that when you're getting leveled when you're old? You do it because you've turned to God again and again. You are in the habit of trust. What you do when your heart is broken when you're 25 is preparing you for what to do when your heart is broken when you're 55. That job that you knew was yours at age 28. First interview, awesome. Second interview, awesome. Third interview, you're packing your bags. It's yours. And then, we selected somebody else. Turning to God in this moment because I am so frustrated. I can't believe I'm starting all over again with this process. You can't believe how disappointing this is. God, turning to God with that frustration is preparing you for that day when you're 58 and HR calls you in and has your position is being eliminated conversation. I don't think you ignore God for 58 years and then all of a sudden, magic trust, throw the switch. I think this is a muscle that is developed. It's the benefit of early trust. And even as I'm saying this, some of you are like, 45 and going, well, I'm host. That I have trusted you since my youth. That didn't happen. I just would plead with you, begin wherever you are. Begin with wherever you are. Begin trusting as soon as you can. And build on that, build on that, build on that. Turn to God. Turn to God when you're 13 and 18 and 23 and 28 and 33. Turn to God with each and every disappointment. Listen, you're going to turn to something. We always do. When your heart is empty, when you feel rejected, abandoned, betrayed, deserted, deeply disappointed, you will turn to something. You'll turn to binge watching some inane program, not because it's interesting and life-giving, but just so that you can numb out and not have to think about what's going on. You will turn to something. You will find yourself shopping when you're lonely, bored, and depressed. You will turn to something. You will turn to drugs or alcohol as numbing devices and get in the habit of doing that. People who feel lonely, distant, maybe rejected, turning increasingly to internet erotic sites, leaving you feeling more distant from people and more disengaged from life. We will turn to something in our moments of deep, vast disappointment. We always do. You will rant and rage at how unfair life is and engender a complaining, embittered spirit. You will turn to something. And in these tactics, they are unreliable at best. And at worst, they are relationship killing and soul destroying. Early trust. How in the world can this guy, this king, entering this hardship in his senior years, say, God, you are my rock, you are my fortress, because he had made God his rock and his fortress over and over and over through repeated pains and through repeated disappointments in life. It's the benefit of early trust. The benefit of early trust. Now, he did not do this perfectly. King David of Jerusalem had some abysmal failures, devastating failures. He did not turn to his God perfectly, but the general, faithful, consistent trajectory of his life was turning to God again and again and again. Begin where you are. See, if you turn to God, through hurt, he'll recover. Hurt again, he'll recover. Hurt again. And you just keep turning. There's a strong possibility that someday you will emerge as what I would call an ambassador of contagious hope. No. It's not just that you will live a hopeful, confident life. It's the way that hopeful, confident life has the capacity of spreading from you into the lives of other people who have been knocked down by something huge. Part 3 of our conversation is conversation about contagious hope. What I feel is one of the most powerful verses in this song is verse 14, where he says, as for me, I will always have hope. I will praise you more and more. Now, please read with me what we have highlighted here in yellow. Ready? I will always have hope. As for me, says the old guy in trouble, clinging to God, as for me, I will always have hope. Now, I want to have just a brief conversation about what hope is, and the best way I think I can do this is by contrasting it to what I feel is its opposite, which would be despair. And so you just got hope as against despair. Now, I don't think you'd find this as a dictionary definition, but as our working description today, I would like you to view hope. Hope is a capacity to envision a positive future. What is hope? Even if things are awful and ugly, it's the capacity to look down the road in your life and to envision that there will be a positive future out there for you, even if you can't see it. And even if you have zero idea about what that positive future will look like, hope is the capacity to envision a positive future. Despair, on the other hand, is the inability to envision a positive future. Now, disappointments come and go. The only way to avoid disappointment is to have no expectations about anything in life, which means to numb out your heart. But if you have any expectations about anything, you're going to experience disappointment. Disappointment comes and goes. Despair is not just something that comes and goes. Despair settles in. Despair is a settled condition of living without hope. You reach a point where you're absolutely incapable of envisioning that tomorrow might be better than today. You reach a point where you're no longer capable of envisioning that God may restore your laughter and your joy. You are incapable of envisioning good days out there. And by the way, I would just plead with you today, do not let despair camp out in your life. Send it packing. Let disappointment visit. Do not let despair move in. When you start to despair, there's something where you cross your arms, you go, why even try? Why even try? It's not gonna matter anyway. And you have begun to plunge into numbness, become jaded and cynical about, why does it matter? It doesn't even matter what I do. Hope is the ability, the capacity to envision a positive future. And David says, as for me, I can't speak for you. As for me, I will always have hope. I believe God will visit me. This is an awful situation. This is an ugly situation. It is more vastly disappointing and heartbreaking than I could ever communicate. I believe God will be good to me. I don't know how many dozens of conversations I've been in over the years where someone is in the middle of a family tragedy, a relational mess, someone that just leveled them. And the job isn't just to say, listen, this really isn't that bad, because it really is. But to say, in the middle of this awful, in the middle of this ugly, in the middle of this abandonment, betrayal, and desertion, listen, look at me. I believe God will be good to you. Open your hands to release this pain, and open your hands to receive the good gifts that God may be pleased to drop in them right now. I believe that God may show his goodness in 100 unexpected ways. This doesn't make the ugly, awful go away. It's hardship infused by hope, confidence, and trust that is born at turning to God, turning to God, and turning to God. But this point had two words. It wasn't simply hope. Does anyone remember the first word? Those of you who are copious note takers, help me here. What's it called? It's contagious hope. 2 words. What was the first word? It was my friends, this is hope. It's contagious hope. It's hope that spreads. I want you to see what happens next, where David is saying, listen, my mission is not simply getting through this mess. My mission is broadcasting the fact that God can be trusted in all of our messes. Check this out with me. Verse 15, my mouth will, now just note the words as we go through like 4 verses. Note the word tell, note the word declare, note the word proclaim. This is not just hope. This is contagious hope. It's hope that spreads. And so my mouth will tell of your righteous deeds, of your saving acts all day long, though I don't even know how I'm gonna relate all of the times that you have been my helper. I will tell. The next verse, verse 16, he says, I will come and proclaim your mighty acts, sovereign Lord. I will proclaim your righteous deeds, yours alone. See, this is not just simply having hope. This is becoming an ambassador of contagious hope. I just want other people to know that God can be trusted. You can turn to him in any hour of desperation. He continues in verse 17 where he says, since my youth, here we go back to the childhood thing. Since my youth, God, you have taught me, and to this day I declare your marvelous deeds. And then in verse 18, he goes, even when I am old and gray, do not forsake me, my God. I've never abandoned you. Please don't abandon me. Even when I'm old and gray, don't forsake me until I what? Until I declare your power to the next generation, your mighty acts to all who are to come. David, what is your mission? My mission is to survive this. No. David, what is your mission? My mission is to tell every 8-year-old and every 13-year-old and 18-year-old and 23-year-old and 28-year-old and 33-year-old, turn to him, turn to him, turn to him. I've found him faithful over the course of a lifetime. The other things you try to plug the hole and fill your life with, unreliable at best, relationship destroying and soul killing at worst. Turn to him, turn to him. I just love this. Till I declare your power to the next generation, your mighty acts to all who are to come. This, my friends, is the endowment that you receive when you have turned to God and found him faithful through numerous hardships. There's no business card that you have, but it should say, Ambassador of Contagious Hope. Ambassador of Contagious Hope. Tell, declare, proclaim. Well, Jeff, someone's faith walk, it's a personal thing. It is personal, deeply personal. That doesn't mean it's private. Other people may need our journey to survive theirs and to thrive in theirs, to fend off being jaded, numb, and cynical about everything. Other people might be relying on your journey in order to live lives of confident hope and trust. This is the power of being able to tell someone who's younger, when we woke up that morning and discovered that our company had no value, I felt like it was me who had no value. And I didn't know until that morning that all of my self-esteem, all of my value, all of my significance was hinging on that position and on that title and on that income. And I had to turn to God because, quite frankly, there was no other place to turn, no other good place. And sometimes you turn to God because he's the only place you have to turn, and you find that he's enough. You can trust him, you know. It's the story of those who have survived and become people of hope during moments of deep trial. When your spouse left, leaving you with 2 small children. When your spouse left, taking 2 small children. And you just thought your heart would never heal. Turn to God there. Someone 10 years from now will need that story to navigate their grief. When your grandmother died, I was so lonely. When I was 55 and got canned when the cancer returned. When you find that he's all you have, sometimes that's the very space where you discover that he's enough. You can trust him, you know. You can trust him, you know. This is why there are some people that tear up every time they sing the song, "Great is thy faithfulness." Because they're reflecting back on how God met them, how they emerged with some hope and some confidence and some life while traveling through the awful and the up. I want to do something. I want to give you like 15 seconds. For 15, 20 seconds, I would just like you to play back the film of some of your life and reflect on at least one time when God showed himself powerfully faithful in your disappointment? Just take a few seconds.